Now let's look at the second lord in the third house. What Parashara tells us about this position is we have the wealth lord abiding in the house of brother. So the person born is courageous, intelligent, virtuous, lustful. So the third house, you got to understand, it's kind of got Mars for a Karaka. So it's much more pushy than, in Vedic astrology, the third house is more pushy than the Gemini correlation that we tend to give it in Western astrology. It's tougher. The third house is something, the number 3 relates with Mars. Mars being, if you count from the planets, this is something we do in Vedic astrology. You go, Sun is number 1, Moon is number 2, Mars is number 3, Mardi, Tuesday. Mercury is number 4, Mercredi, Wednesday. Jupiter's number 5, Jeudi, Jupiter. Then Venus is 6 and Saturn is 7. There's a key numerology there, and Mars is 3rd, and this resonates with the third house. So the second lord of wealth is abiding in the house of brother, the third house. So it's brother, it's tough, it's siblings. So there's kind of a pushiness that this person needs to learn to apply in order to make the most of their financial wellness. And if they don't, then they're going to get into trouble. So this person tends to be courageous and intelligent and virtuous. They learn about the things that they have to do to gain general affluence in society and to be affluent. The second house is the impression you make on people. And so these people push to make a good impression. With that, with the second house being like an emotional security paradigm, in the pushy third house, there's a lustfulness. Eagerly desiring things. Now, especially if this is mixed with a subha, which is a benefic, this person is eagerly desiring, and that's a good thing. Vedic astrology does not apologize for being healthily materialistic. So a benefic will help you to gain push to get the good things that you need and want in your life. Now, when the second lord is in the third house and it's mixed with a malefic, the person doesn't get what they want in life and they blame divinity. That's what Parashara tells us. It's divinity's fault. It's God's fault that I have such a hard time getting the things that I don't want in life. And it's because they don't push for it. They haven't been trained to push for it since they were very young. And so because that malefic was there, whatever that malefic is doing to the second lord in the third house is causing them to not fight for what they need, which is the second house is, again, an emotional security paradigm. So when we read the first and second house, the reading you just heard in the following reading is coming from the Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, Volume 2 by Ryan Kirksack and Richard Fish. I highly recommend it. This is where we're getting the goods from this for all of this stuff. This is especially important if you've got the Atmakaraka, Rahu, or Ketu, or the rising sign lord involved in that third house or the second house, right? So when we read about the yogas, we hear a positive description of what's expected and then a negative description. Most people have a mix of both, but sometimes you'll be a person who just has all good things and you're not going to experience the bad things. Some people are going to have all like a hard time with that second lord in the third house. It's not in good dignity. It's not aspected well. It's bad shadbala. So it's going to have most of the difficult things that we read here. So this is the ruler of the second house, it falling in the third house. The positive things that we hear is that this person tends to earn money in a pushy way through advertising, marketing, sales, or promotion. It's the promotion of their things. They're putting themselves out there on Facebook and Instagram and all the internet things, learning the ways of what's trendy, what's hot, and pushing it to their advantage in order to make money from their valuable product or someone else's product. Just being able to market in this way. Being a marketer for other people is how they make their money. That can be a thing. Now, this is the second house and the third. This person can be a singer. The The third house does relate with pushiness, but also artistic refinement. So this person can earn by being a singer, or they earn through artistic expression. There's a good sense of design in this person. The second house relating to living in a way. It's an earthy sort of feeling sense of what has good flow and feng shui. And it's applied to the third house of artistic design. This person makes money working together with siblings, peers, or teammates. Again, it's the earning of the second in the teammates of the sibling of brother, the third house. This person can travel short distances for their basic living, for their work. The second house is your basic financial reality, your job, your occupation. That's your job. The 10th house is like what occupies you, but the second house is like your job. This person earns through hobbies or sports, third house things. They work in a field requiring scientific or methodical thinking and research. That's a place where their basic job is. You know, the second house person is dipping their fingers into the third house of research, trying things, trying this chemistry, and that didn't work out. Write it down in a book. You know, journalistic type people really exploring things in this way. They use the arms and their hands in their basic livelihood. Third house, arms, hands, fingers. They're enthusiastic about earning resources. The third house has this enthusiasm to it, especially when it's well placed. Remember, if you're reading this and you're thinking, yeah, I want to be enthusiastic, but you're finding ultimately you should be, because with the second lord in the third house, you should be enthusiastic. You should have this bombastic pushiness to use it to its best effect. If you don't, you might have difficulty with Mars. You might have difficulty with your D3 chart. You might have difficulty with the second or third lord. This person should have a good eye for detail. This is a person who's a journalist, a writer, and an adventurer. They're skilled in communication, and they're a dynamic speaker. These are all the things that a person should be able to take advantage of by having the second lord in the third house. Now, if you find all these things bring you difficulty, you might have afflictions to the second house, to the third house, or their lords going on, right? Or to Mars, which is a karaka for the third house. So Mars and the health of Mars is going to relate to the big picture here. So when the person is lacking these strengths, lacking this foundation in the second house or the third house, lacking the things that would bring them, you know, you've got the second lord in the third house and it's ill-placed in some way, you might expect to get the negative side of these things. So this is somebody who loses money through their short distance travels. You know, like say they're a carpenter and they have to keep all their tools in their back truck, so they're wrecking their truck as they drive, and they're spending more money on gas, and they've got to travel long, short distances, and they're losing money off of it, right? They might waste resources on third house hobbies and adventures. Their speech, the second house, often hurts or offends their siblings, peers, neighbors, or teammates. So this is a person who needs to earn money through the third house, through teammates, through communicating in a very direct way. You know, if you're at you could be like a boss for laborers on a construction yard. And if you were mean to your siblings in your early life, you've got the second lord in the third house, now you're carrying that into how you're too pushy on with your teammates. Who's, go and pick that up already. Go and pick that up already. You're impatient with them, and this comes back to haunt you. People hate you for it, and you feel it, and it's painful, right? This person will lose financial opportunities due to inappropriate or poor communication, this brusqueness. If you feel this brusqueness, this just pushiness, this impatience that you apply with other people, anger and anger management issues, is probably going to really mess with your financial stability and emotional stability overall. It's something that you should look at. Now, this is someone who wastes money trying to improve their skills. They have typically mediocre talents. This is somebody who probably feels a mediocrity in their talents because of the afflictions to the third house and lord, or the second lord in the third. They are trying too hard to gain money overall, because the second and the third has to try hard to gain money. And you might be trying too hard to gain money and not getting much back from it, and it's draining you, and it feels like a waste. And that yet you keep tending to do it because you want to repudiate that second house. You know, there's remedies for the second house that you would probably want to use more than just like, let me just try and make this get rich quick scheme one more time. You know, that you probably drain a lot of energy that way. And you might do well with just psychology to look at yourself and figure out why am I not happy without this money? Once you're happy without the money will come in a little easier. This is somebody who may take money from others in their job. Third house sword fighting, you know. Speech provokes aggression in others. There's a lack of tact in this person. They're difficult to reason with in regards to finances and resources. They can be anxious overall. And money is a topic for this person that provokes fear and drama. If you find this in yourself, then you might want to see if you're overlooking some afflictions to your second or third lord. They blame karma or higher powers for their bad luck. Whereas in reality, it's probably how they're presenting themselves, how pushy they're coming off of, or how they're not pushing enough. It's tricky because it's going to be different for each person, for each position. But if you feel like you're not pushing enough, you know, you might do well to see an astrologer for them to figure out, is it you're pushing too hard, or is it you're not pushing enough through the second house, the second lord in the third house, right? Because those will all be different in their own sorts of ways. The example I have here for this is Brad Pitt, who has the second lord, a very important second lord, in the third house. And the third house lord, the second house lord in the third house, it's in its own sign of Aquarius. It's really, this is a crazy chart. You know, there's a lot squashed into just this little area here. Definitely more than a bowl chart. You know, it's a bowl chart though, but it's all underneath and sort of hanging closer to the side of self. So that second house is loaded like crazy for Brad Pitt. And it's very lucky for him that the one planet that's channeling this, like 4-planet stellium, including K2 in that second house, the planet that's channeling all of it is a happy Saturn in its own sign of Aquarius in that third house. Saturn doesn't like being too close to the first cusp, mind you, and it's possible this sun has almost got kind of a sextile thing happening to that Saturn, but overall it's not so bad. It's a pretty happy chappy Saturn, and it is carrying that second house in an important way.